Hi, I'm Hal Reynolds, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about using this safety wire twister to make bottle brush trees. These are Micromax products. These are some of the other components that we'll be using. 2.5-inch bristles, some wire for tree making. The tool has some neat features. It has a pair of the plier end here, which is what we're going to use to hold the wire. Then it has this locking mechanism here, and there's a catch in here, and basically you squeeze this and this slides back to lock the tool closed so that it clamps tightly onto the wire. And then we'll wind up pulling on this piece to actually make the tool spin to twist the wire. Let's start by taking a piece of the soft iron wire. I'm going to bend it in half. And one way to hold the wire, the other end of the wire, the opposite end that the tool will hold, would be to clamp it into a vise. But for this demonstration, we're going to use this nail that we've placed in the tabletop here. And put the wire over it. We're going to unlock the tool, because I locked it, and then clamp the tool here, and then squeeze it and lock it. Okay. The next thing we're going to do now that we have the tool clamped firmly on the end of the wire is we're going to place some of these 2.5-inch fibers in between the wire. I'm going to start at the end closest to the jaws of the plier. I'm going to grab some of these, open the wire up a little bit. I'm going to put a bunch of them in to start with. It's kind of hard to see what's going on here. I'm going to slide them down close to the front. And don't worry about if you have extra pieces kind of falling out, because you can trim the tree up as you go. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I found that a trick is to do smaller sections at a time to build a tree up slowly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch with a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm going to pinch the cable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the chrome knurled knob here, and holding this tightly, I'm going to pull it gently, and it has a ratcheting action. So the more you let it ratchet, the more it twists. The goal here is to twist it enough to keep the fibers, the bristles, firmly in place so they don't fall out. So you know you're okay if you tug on the bristles and they don't come out. You can see here that we'll just pick up from where we stopped, and we'll put some more bristles in this section here. And we'll open the wire up, and we'll spread them out. Try to add a few more this time. I'll do the same thing we did before. Pinch the wire. And what that's preventing is that's preventing the rest of the wire from being twisted up so that we can keep kind of building as we go here. Okay. You can reuse these fibers if you can stack them back up. Try to get them as centered as you possibly can, but don't worry too much about it, because you're always going to be able to trim the tree, and particularly when we get to this end, if this end being the top of the tree, we're going to be trimming it closer to the wire. So here we go again. This will make a pretty tall tree, as you can see. Squeezing the plier, slip the release up, and here we have our bottle brush tree. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the loop end off, and then I'm going to take a pair of scissors and start to shape the tree. Okay, the next step would be to finish the tree. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to paint it with some green color, and then we're going to sprinkle on some of this blended turf foliage. So let me just put a glove on the hand that I'm going to use to hold the tree. Spray the tree. and now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle on some of the ground foam. And the neat thing about this method is that if you don't like the look of the tree, we can simply spray it again and add more foam. And you would want to be doing this into a box so that you capture a lot of the foam that I'm just letting fall. But you can see we've made a pretty nice little tree here. Okay, recently when I was on a trip to Florida, I was impressed by the way that some of the fellows that I had met with were making buffalo grass, a tall grass for the layout. And they basically were using the Mackenzie Brothers tree twisting tool, which is a lot like this. This is my version of a quick and simple version of it. And basically the idea is it's going to hold a piece of wire taut, a pair of wires taut, and we're going to insert some fibers between the wires and then twist the wires and basically making a bottle brush type tree. So to begin with, what we're going to do is I've got a piece of wire here that's it looped at one end and the two ends are just loose. The two loose ends I'm going to push through a couple of holes that are at the end of the device here. Okay, and now the device that the boys had in Florida had a hand crank on it, but I've kind of jury-rigged this little battery-powered screw gun to go on the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the looped end and I'm going to wrap it around the end of the bit that I have here. The objective here is to try to keep the wires as taut as possible. The tighter they are, the easier it will make. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them tight. I'm going to wrap them around these little dowels that are at the ends. And there's a couple of slots that we can slip the wire through to securely kind of anchor the wires in place. Okay. So we've got our wires anchored. We have our drill attached. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to try to increase the tension on the wires just a little bit. I'm going to grab the wires up here with a pair of needle nose pliers and just take a few revolutions just to tighten the tension up just slightly on the wires. The next step will be to cut some hemp rope, manila rope, into some short 1¼ inch size pieces. And what I want to do now is I want to separate some of the fibers and I want to try to untwist them a little bit. And to kind of help straighten things out, I'm going to use a comb that's designed for, it's a dog comb. You can get them in any pet store. And this will help sort of separate and straighten the fibers a little bit. Okay. The next, I'm going to take and slip the fibers between the two wires and slide them down to the beginning. And now at this point what we want to try to do is we want to try to spread them out. And oftentimes you can put a few inches of fibers onto in between the wires. If you put too much in terms of making it bulky, the wires will move apart and they will get loose and your fibers will be falling out and it will turn into a frustrating adventure. So at this point what we can do is we can grab the wire here. And what this is going to do is this is going to prevent the wire from here to here from twisting, and it's just going to allow us to twist the area that I have the fibers in. Okay. So at this point we'll take some more. Now you can depending on what you're going to do, this particular demonstration I'm going to use this to make grass rather than a tree. So I'm going to use some different textures and different color fibers, which will just add a little interest to the ground cover. This was the manila rope. It's a little coarser and a little more inconsistent in its actual shape. The other thing you can do as well is add different lengths. This is a shorter piece. which will give you some variety. Tighten this up to this point. You want enough twists to keep the fibers from pulling out. So if you tug on the fibers and they're secure, then you'll know that you've got enough twist. You don't want to overdo it. All right, I'm just going to add just a little bit more and then we'll call this one done. In the case of making grass, I want to just push all of the foliage, or the blades, depending on how you want to look at it, all in one direction. I'm pushing them all on the downside, like so. What we have here is we have some pretty nice looking tall grass, marsh grass, and you can bend the wire. It's very soft, so you can bend it into some interesting shapes. And I didn't entirely cover it because I wanted to let some of the color of the rope come through. Okay, here's another piece. But you can see that you could put several rows of it side by side and you can make a pretty effective looking field or a larger area covered. It could be stapled down. It could be, you could glue it down or glue it down and use the staples to hold it temporarily, then pull the staples up. So here you have it. Here's an easy way to make some very impressive looking ground foliage that gives you a little variety in texture and color on your next layout or diorama.